The Conservative Party of Canada tabled an opposition motion to M103 on the 16th. A simple rewording of the original motion, changing "recognize the need to quell the increasing climate of hate and fear" to "recognize that Canadian society is not immune to the climate of hate and fear," as well as removing the nebulous and undefined term Islamophobia entirely, in favor of discrimination of Muslims, while also including a number of other religious groups. If these things are in fact the end goal of the original motion, the strong disdain for this rewording from the Liberal Party makes little sense to me. After all, the government's job is not to protect or promote a particular faith, but to protect the faithful, as pointed out by Conservative MP Harold Albrecht during the debate, shortly after he noted the House had heard 3 different definitions of the term Islamophobia in a single debate. Not long after, Liberal MP Ruby Sahota suggested that the Conservative Party failed to make the effort to learn what Islamophobia is. Yeah, a fucking member of parliament told an entire political party to educate themselves. Perhaps with more than half the votes in the House of Commons, the resistance to the new wording is simply political dick-waving on the part of the Liberal Party. We have the votes, we can pass what we want. But somehow I doubt it. According to the author of the original motion, Liberal MP Iqra Khalid, M103 has done something that's very important. It's created conversation. It's shown us that there is a lot of work to be done when we have these conversations on inclusion. And we need to combat these problems, combat these issues by having this study, and we need to recognize that we have a problem and we need to tackle it head on. Well, that's not quite right, is it? The conversation has been going on for some time, and without Iqra Khalid. The conversation has been happening in depth in places like Sweden, Germany, France, Denmark, the UK, and Australia, where migrant and refugee violence, sexual assault, and even terrorist attacks have steadily increased over the past several years. Will the study show it's Islamophobic to say that? Is it Islamophobic to suggest there are men from certain cultures who think less of women who don't wear the hijab? Who think that if they sexually assault a woman who isn't wearing a hijab, it's the woman's fault? Egyptian-born cleric, Sheikh Taj al-Din al-Halali said, "If you take out uncovered meat and place it outside without cover, and the cats come to eat it, whose fault is it? The cats or the uncovered meats?" And he said this in Australia in 2006. Maybe I'm just being Islamophobic, and that's actually more of an Australian thing. I don't know. Recently on Australian political TV show Q&A, Yasmin Abdel Magied asked Tasmanian Senator Jackie Lambie, "Do you know what Sharia law is?" She then claimed, "People talk about Islam without knowing anything about it." Well, that's not quite right, is it? People in the West are learning more about Islam and the various forms of Sharia law as practiced in various Islamic theocracies. And the more we learn about it, the more we feel the need to question and criticize it as an ideology. I have a Quran on my bookshelf. It's no more or less horrific than the Old Testament, but there are no Christian theocracies. There are no Jewish communities that take insolent sons to the gates of the city to be stoned to death. Deuteronomy chapter 21, verses 18 to 21. There's no Jewish marches taking place in London with huge banners stating, "The followers of Moses will conquer America." and picket signs reading, "Democracy and freedom on death row." Canada has accepted over 40,000 Syrian refugees, and there has been an alleged sexual assault on several female minors by a Syrian refugee at the West Edmonton Mall pool. And the bigger story in our national news was whether or not it should have been disclosed that the accused is a Syrian refugee. See, Ikra? The conversation's been going on without you. You're so far out of the loop on this conversation, you don't realize that we on this side of the debate have long since learned that words like racism, sexism, xenophobia, and Islamophobia are words used in lieu of an argument because you don't actually have one. They're not words to spark a conversation, they're words to shut down a conversation. In an attempt to justify the refusal to remove the word Islamophobia from M103, Khalid said, "I will not do so any more than I would speak to the Holocaust and not mention that the overwhelming majority of victims were 6 million followers of the Jewish faith, and that anti-Semitism was the root cause of the Holocaust. We cannot address a problem if we fail to call it by its true name." She's talking about President Trump's Holocaust Remembrance Day statement, when he didn't explicitly mention Jews or anti-Semitism. Well, what a mistake she just made. In her excitement to virtue signal and take a dig at Donald Trump in one statement, she's tipped her hand. The overwhelming majority of targets of religiously motivated hate crimes in Canada are Jews. But Jews and anti-Semitism aren't mentioned in her fucking motion, and she refused to back an otherwise identical motion that did mention Jews, showing that it's not about religious discrimination. It's about Islam. It's not about people. It's about an ideology. I hope her study, if nothing else, provides her with a fucking clue. Because she's fucking terrible at this. The word that springs to mind is noob. Most Canadians are too polite to say, "Fuck you, cunt. Stop calling us these things that we aren't. Go fuck yourself." I'm not, but most are. Most of us will wait patiently in the wings until the next election cycle, and then pwn these noobs out of office. Relevant links to shit I said in the description? Maybe. I'm Irving Twin. Like, subscribe, or don't. It's a free country. At least it used to be.